Hey everyone, Sakurayasen here, and welcome to another episode of Pointy Chins, where I take you through my art journey. Alright, so to start off this month, this is kind of an up and down month. You know, some things I feel like were particularly difficult this month. And I have this kind of up and down thing for a few months. So I started with a self-portrait, which turned out pretty awful. It doesn't really look like me. I used a mechanical pencil. I haven't done one in a very long time, and I don't know if I should have done more or not done one at all. But here, I tried to do a guy riding a bicycle. I wanted to have gesture and a feeling of a bicycle, and then I realized when I did this that I don't know what a bicycle really looks like, and this was my best guess at what a bicycle looked like. So then I actually looked up some reference, and okay, so that's what a bicycle looks like. There's a top part that goes here. Huh, okay, good. And then I just drew a bicycle to sort of from memory, although I had this here, but I mean, tried not to look at it and just see if I could remember the shapes. I don't think I'll ever need that, and I don't really remember how to draw a bicycle, but I guess it's just a thing where I thought it was a good idea at the time to actually learn what something looked like. So of these ones, I like this one. His ear's kind of big, but I really like this small face. Kind of reminds me of Gowron from Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Next Generation. I don't know if... Anyway, moving on. So, I don't know. This is kind of okay as a character. I like the gesture going on. I don't like this one. His gesture doesn't look good, and nothing is matching. I'm not quite sure what was going on here. Some kind of idea about eyeballs? It looks like I was trying to figure out eyeballs, and like, oh, what if I put a V in the middle, which I do, and then what if I make it more boxy for the iris, which I guess can work. And I made some big hulking figures with small legs, but it doesn't really bother me for some reason. It seems kind of okay. Not sure why, but that's something. Some guy wearing clothes, because I don't draw clothes enough. And I still don't draw clothes enough. Yeah, and then just some characters. I'm not really happy with their faces. And I decided, like, rather than just say I'm unhappy with the face, it would probably be better if I just, like, redraw it so you can see what I mean, or what I would do now. But I kind of got hesitant with that, because it's like, well, if I redraw it, that's implying that I think it's correct, but it's not really that I'm making it correct. It's just that I would be bringing it from, like, the time I'm recording this, it's February, and this thing is for September, so it's just making it so it's brought forward a few months in my ability, and I'm not saying it's correct, but anyway, so that's my redone face. I felt with this previous one that the cranium seems too small. Like, there's not enough room here. Things are kind of wonky with the features. So I don't know if you can see the difference there. Something I did find, though, is there is a degree of maybe energy or personality that is lost. So I guess that's something to keep in mind, but I suppose it's a matter of what would you rather have, things being correct or have a bit more personality, perhaps. So here's another page. I feel like things are kind of coming together. Like, I kind of like this girl. I don't hate the body proportion so much. It's a bit too big. This one, the head feels much too small. But overall, it's kind of coming along. The foreshortening on this is really bad. It's just too much. And this guy, I felt like the pecs are not very good. Here's some hidden background pictures. These people look pretty concerned. Yeah, they don't look like they're doing good, so I guess this is the internal representation of how I'm feeling as I'm drawing these. So anyway, fix this guy's pecs a bit. I made him a bit more structural. I guess I was making the waists a bit too skinny, and so I did make it a bit less skinny in the waist, but mostly I shifted the pecs up and I just made it a bit more structural. And then for the lady with the foreshortened leg, I just kind of toned it down a bit because it seemed a bit too much. All right. So more faces. I'm not happy with these. I kind of like this lady though. There are some things I would change with her, but not too many things. One thing I feel that I do across the board though is I make the back of the neck too long, and this is something I didn't really realize until I guess more recently. Is just that I was over and over making the back of the neck way too long, and that the back of the neck is kind of short actually. And the way you can think about this if you're kind of confused about it is just if you were wearing a shirt with a collar, just try and feel the back collar, like behind your neck, how high it is in the back and how low it is in the front. And that kind of gives you an idea of how the neck actually is. It's got quite a slant to it. So I felt across the board with these drawings that, like even this one, the neck feels, it's like it's long, but you can have a long neck. It's not that the neck can't be too long. It's just you need to consider the back of the neck and how it flows, and how just because the front is long doesn't mean the back's going to be super long as well. So this is just a bit of a redo. I feel like I lost again some of the character in the original, but yeah, I brought the back up a bit and then left this part pretty long in the front of the neck, and some minor changes, but yeah. So this face I think is cool. I like these shapes. I don't know, like an inverted teardrop, I guess, where the top of the teardrop is the chin and the bottom is the cranium. Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like this one is kind of cool. I like these shapes, how flat this gets, and then how everything else sort of flows from that point. Yeah, it seems pretty nice. These ones, here, still not, as I said before, the back of the neck thing. Also, the underside of the chin, wasn't really sure about that. And then this body is way too long. Same with this woman. I kind of like the face. Like, I think that's fine. But the body I definitely would do differently now. I like these little faces. These are kind of nice. I guess the more cartoony they are, the more you can get away with. But anyway, with this one, did a bit of a change. It looks weird when I flip to it, and actually I think the neck placement is still probably not good. But if I just look at this for a while, it starts to look a bit more normal. Like at least the head to body ratio. Maybe it's a bit too big of a head, or I mean that's debatable, what's what, but it seems a bit more okay than this one, but maybe not great yet still. So here's some more. Guess this was a bad day. I imagine what happened is the black pen wore out and then I had to switch pens. But yeah, often the first page, because I always do 2 pages now. I was sometimes doing 2 pages, sometimes doing 3 pages, but often doing 1 page before, and I've really just switched to always doing 2 pages, and kind of 2 sessions. One more in the beginning of the day and one more at the end of the day. And I don't know, not much to say with these. Don't really like any of them. Maybe this guy's okay. This one I kind of like the eyes, but yeah, not a good day, I would say, with that one. And some of these others. I like these expressions though. I guess that's where I'm getting the most laughs, is just these little ones. I think this guy's expression's kind of funny too. Yeah, sad guy. But it's coming together. See, I'm making the bodies a bit smaller, and I think that works with the general proportion of or the general style, where you have these like bigger eyes and then bigger cranium and gets smaller to the chin, and then you kind of get big, but then it rapidly gets smaller. So very compressed torsos maybe, although this one has a bit of a longer torso, and I guess I'm still, you could go either way. I mean, that's the interesting thing with drawing and styles, is you really can go like one way and have like a very compressed rib cage, for instance, and it'll work. And you can also have a very elongated rib cage, and it can work so long as the face is adequately stylized, I suppose. So some more faces. This one is just a triangle. I guess this one's more boxy, and yeah. I really don't like this lady. I would have done a draw over, but it's just everything would need to go. But I kind of like this interaction, I suppose, with these 3. And then this guy, I'm not a huge fan of him. Don't really know what's going on. He's got kind of weird proportions. So here, what I was doing is I realized that I am a bit better at drawing the full figure and keeping it proportionate, or at least being sort of happy with what I was doing with the when I draw small. Whereas, as you can see on this page, like when I draw big, it kind of doesn't feel as good. But then in this case, it sort of works. So I just used a perspective trick to just plot a vanishing point and then use that to make points. So for instance, the top of the head hits the horizon, sort of. So in this one, the top of the head also is going to hit the horizon. And then this line comes and it hits the bottom of the chin here. So then by extending it, I extended it to here, and then you just go across, and then I get the bottom of the chin there. Yeah, so I'm just using this line actually. You draw a straight line, and you plot where each thing would go, and then you just draw a straight line across. So the idea of it was just to, and it's not quite perfect, which is why there's some issues, but the idea is to get a bigger version of this. So if you were using digital, you would just Control-T, scale up, and that would solve your problem. But because I was using traditional, I had to use this method to expand my character. And still not really happy with the body, the torso, this part. The breasts seem too low. The neck is very long. Not 100% on board with that. Another not so great page, although this guy I kind of like. I like it more when I start with like a weird shape that's not quite anything and then turn it into a face, as opposed to when I'm trying to make a face from like a circle shape or something like that. And here I was working on some eyes, just playing around with different eye shapes. Oh, this guy looks very sad. Yeah, I was probably super depressed at this period. It looks that way anyway from some of these expressions. They're constantly kind of bad. You can see in the way the pen strokes go, it feels pained, kind of. I don't know. If I saw this, I would probably think the person who made it is pretty depressed. which I probably was, but not so much now, so that's good at least. Here I was trying to play around with clothing. I think this one I was kind of proud of because these are all from imagination, so I'm really bad when it comes to clothes, and the reason is I just don't have much interest in them. So when I do use reference, it tends to help, but I can't really keep it in my head because I don't know, I kind of don't care, and that's bad. It's not good that I don't care. I should care, and I will try to improve on clothing. I think the worst thing about this guy is just like it would have been better if the belt was a bit higher. In cases like this, like I think this face is quite ugly, but I don't think it's necessarily far from being correct. What I felt with this one is more like it's just a matter of taking the features and sort of moving them around. So I did that, just sort of scaled the eyes and nose a bit more down, brought them down further, and then had the nose and the mouth. So in this case, if you were to draw the face and like the top of the head and the bottom of the chin, and you went halfway, it's not actually where the eyes are. In fact, this one is a bit more close to a halfway point. But that's where you're supposed to put eyes generally in a face, is kind of halfway. But when you do a very stylized proportion, you have to understand that things are going to change, and they're not going to necessarily be like the features aren't going to be in the same spot necessarily. So you can fix it. And when I go, when I flip between them, it seems kind of weird, but if you just saw this, I think you wouldn't be too bothered by it. You might think, well, the guy has a very big forehead, a very high hairline or a receding hairline, and you would be right. I suppose that's the case, although I don't mind those, so I guess I do that anyway, even if I know it's, whatever. So here, what I was doing is all the big ones all these big eyes are from reference. I was looking at different eye shapes, and I was converting them into my style. So obviously they didn't all have red eyes with like triangular V shapes for pupils. That's kind of what I wanted for my style. But the rest is all based on real eyes. So I got to see quite a lot of variation, but also quite a lot of similarities. I would say something I noticed throughout these is just how much more weight is on this end and not as much on the top. I mean, this is an exception, but most of them, they're very heavily weighed. Like this eyelash part is very heavy on this area. And then the smaller ones are just taking this more complicated thing from reference and trying to simplify it down to a more stylized and easy to draw thing with a few less lines, I guess. But I mean, they're overall pretty similar, so it's also just a way of cementing some of these ideas in my head. Don't know how well I did cement them, but yeah, I don't mind eye shapes, and I kind of got this idea that I was pretty good with eyes, and so I thought, well, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was, and it's probably good to go back to reference, and I tend to do this. Same with this page. I feel like, well, I'm pretty good with ears, and then I think, well, am I really though? Maybe I should learn some more. And working from life is very good, even if it's a refresher, because what happens, especially with things like ears, for me anyway, is I get used to a shorthand where I'm just simplifying the ear in the same way every single time. And there is quite a lot of variation between these different ear shapes, so it's good to know. Also, you tend to draw your own ears in your characters if you pay attention anyway. Some people just draw random squiggles and shapes and stuff that don't really mean anything, but if you are paying attention, you often tend to draw your own ears a lot and not really the different kinds of ears. So for instance, my ear has more of a lobe like this, but there are lots of ears that don't even just have it connected to the face like this. So just good to remember. And then a few more noses from reference, and trying to simplify them as well. So I mean, like this one is the referenced version, and this is the simplified attempt. Reference, simplified, reference, simplified. So I think that's a good exercise to do, is when you draw something from reference, try and draw it again, but simplified, or maybe from memory or from imagination, or just something to cement what you've learned, because otherwise it's very easy to draw something from reference and then kind of forget it. These people are actually from reference, although they don't look like it, because I really stylized them a lot. These ones are not from reference. But with these ones, I referenced them, but I also wanted to capture like the eye and how different their eyes were. Like this guy's eyes are very, like, almost like they're melting off his face. This one, his eyes are very close together. So this one, like, her eyes are kind of like this, which is pretty interesting. This guy, again, has very droopy eyes. And they're not eyes I normally would do. So I guess that's the thing, is just use reference to figure out shapes you normally wouldn't handle or wouldn't do. In this case, I think I was just doing it from imagination, but just working on different face shapes. Trying to, like, first I just drew this head, and then I tried to draw the profile. This one's kind of got like this zigzaggy lightning type face, which kind of like, but I feel like for all of them they're a bit, they don't look good. The craniums don't look very good, so I'm not sure how much I like these. I guess it was just a bad day. But this day I actually had a happy accident, I feel, with this guy. I started with these people, and the proportions are okay. They're getting better. Here's that thing with the crushed torso. That sounds awful, but crunched, perhaps, is a better word. Where it starts to look better if the torso is actually smaller. And this guy, I felt like, yay, his proportions actually work, and I like them. And that's rare. Couldn't maintain it, but hey, at least I got it for a little while. And then moving on, just playing around with eyes, different stuff like decorative stuff that I can put on. I had the kind of like scars on a eyebrow so the hair doesn't grow there. Trying to simplify my shapes and keep things a bit more chunky. Here I'm playing around with that shorter torso thing that I was doing, and yeah, suppose not much more to say about that page. With this one, I was like, I like eyes that are kind of like this, but I was trying to think of how in cartoons and anime they shrink the iris, which doesn't really happen, of course. Like, doesn't work. The pupil can become smaller, but the iris itself is not going to become smaller. But it does look good, and it kind of conveys the mood, like they're more shocked or surprised. So I guess it's just something that it works, even though it doesn't make sense. And I was just trying to think of different things you could do with an eye, different expressions. This guy's kind of okay. I like how sharp this is. I like this guy as well. Yeah, working with more midget-like proportions or dwarf-like, I'm not sure. Just smaller, or I like this face. I very much like faces that are different, just because I guess they're different. If everyone was doing this, I probably would like it less, but just because it's like, oh, I haven't seen that face done too often. Whereas this one seems a bit more commonplace. But when they're kind of weird, I just get more enjoyment out of looking at them. And some more faces, and then some little bodies. So again, when it gets to the smaller scale, I seem to be a bit more proficient with drawing the bodies, and that's something that I guess it's just going to be, on one hand it's practice, and on the other hand it's paying attention to little things that you're doing. Like, for instance, well, how long is this compared to this? The torso compared to the head, or the size of the pelvis, or things like that. little things to pay attention to. And so here I started again with some small figures, and some mermaid and a baby, old person. There's some little people throughout here. More like a big character again with big arms and small legs. And then some page of thumbnail compositions. Can't say I like any of them though. Maybe the last one is okay in terms of composition on a page, but it still feels a bit too cramped, so I'm not sure I like any of them. Yeah, drawing the guy with a turban. I did this RPG called Indie Bindi, starring a guy called Turbojit Singh, and that's kind of the character. He's got basically these triangle glasses, and he's like supposed to be cool, I guess. I like this person's face. All right. So anyway, yeah, just more faces. This one, it's really not working. Again, it's a case of, if I saw this again, just shrink the mouth, bring the nose and the eyes down, push the nose closer to the eyes. You can kind of do this thing where the nose is really close to the eyes and it'll look okay. It's definitely not what you see in, see, like this one too. It's not what you see really in the proportion guides, like the Loomis head and stuff. They don't do that, but it works. So you'll see it a lot in anime. Or you might have an extra long nose, depends. But there's a lot more that you can actually get away with, and that's what I'm learning a lot, is just how much you can screw around with proportions and still have things look okay. And often it's when you try to make something stylized and you stick to more correct things, they can start to look really wrong. So, yeah, it's like, you got to learn the rules before you break them. But when you break them, you kind of have to break them a lot. You can't just break them. Or I guess you can bend them a bit. But however much you bend them, you have to bend everything the same amount. This one is awful. I mean, looking at this just angers me with how bad it is. The neck is just this long shape. Doesn't connect, doesn't flow. So that's not good. And then back to some more reference. So I'd done some front view eyes. So I figured, well, let's do some side view eyes in different looking in different directions. So yeah, just some random eyes. I like this person's face though. It's very weird. It's not what you would think of as typically beautiful or something, but it is kind of interesting. Sometimes I think interesting faces can be more beautiful just because they're interesting, like this. Like, oh, you got kind of like a bump in the nose and things, but it adds character to the person. It makes them feel a bit more real, at least to me. It feels a bit more alive in some ways. So yeah, here I'm shrinking the bodies, which is good. I feel like that's something I needed to learn. Just shrink the bodies. Don't make them the right proportion for the head, as if the head was done realistically, because it's not. And if you do a very stylized face and then you make the body very realistic, it just looks wrong. At least that's what I've noticed. Unless it's, I mean, you can make them much bigger, especially if it's a guy. You can have like a tiny head and a humongous body, but just to keep things very much in proportion or relationship when you're very stylized, it's kind of, you're gonna mess things up. I think these are from references, all these ones. Probably not this one, but probably the others are. And then these ones definitely don't look to be. This one's looks definitely from reference and from reference. So I guess when the codes are better, chances are it's referenced. Yeah, and I'm just trying trying to figure out how to make these things work. Like this baby looks like his head's too long, so I squished it a lot. I brought the eyes way down, kind of into the cheeks more, and brought the nose up, and that's working a lot more. Whereas this one is probably a bit closer to the reference I was using. Not entirely the same as the reference, but, you know, it's a stylized version of the reference, whereas this one feels a bit better. So, again, it's things like that. And you can push the nose very close to the eyes, and it'll still look okay. I like this proportion. This is working. This one's okay. This one's okay, I guess. These ones aren't very good. But I guess it's just a matter of... this face is working a bit better as well. It's just a matter of doing these things and then having successes and failures, but your rate of success increases as time goes on, and your rate of failure decreases until you try something new. And then your rate of failure is very high again, and your rate of success is very low. But then you just keep doing it until your success rate goes up. But just because it goes up, it doesn't mean you don't have bad days or bad weeks where things just aren't working. It just means that if you zoom out far enough, you'll see the progress is still going in the right direction. So here I'm trying to do some contour things, but I don't know. It seems very stiff. Probably the first drawing of the day tends to be the most stiff. I like this head is kind of cool. This one. So here's some, in my opinion, some pretty okay faces. And this guy's kind of interesting. Trying to play around with costume design. This person's neck again, still too long. And just drawing some hands and feet and bodies and whatever. I think around this time I started playing a game called Battle Chasers, and it was done by Joe Mad, and so some of it's probably rubbing off on me. Or actually, this is in September. I probably wasn't playing at this time, but maybe just still lingering thoughts of Joe Mad's work seep through. Yeah, this face is pretty much not working, way too pushed. And again, the first drawing of this page anyway. This lady's okay. I like the proportions of this. It's getting closer, definitely getting closer. Yeah, here I was just thinking of a scene of some people. I guess just thinking of scenes more. Like, okay, have people moving. It didn't look good. I don't know what this is. But it's definitely part of this scene. I can see he's interacting with the environment. But I don't know what is going on. I think this person a lot. That's a cool expression. Like how the chin like juts out here. And yeah, that's nice. And this person, I don't know, she's got like a 8-ball. I'm imagining a magic 8-ball, and this guy's standing on the table. This is what happens when I try to have ideas. It's just ridiculous. All right. So pretty much nearing the end of this month, or at the end. This one's okay. I do think the next month's going to get better, and the month after that is going to get better. So things are going to improve. You'll have better ones like this one, kind of a bit better. Maybe not perfect, but... And then worse ones like this one. Just, these are kind of god-awful. But yeah. And I saw this one and I thought, well, I guess I could change it. It's not too bad, but it's not good. Like, this is a bit too skinny and things are a bit wonky. So I tried this, but especially when I flip between them, it still looks bad. So I guess I still need more work, but it is a bit better. I think if I just had it like this to begin with, probably, like if I look at these for a while and then I just look at this, it's like, okay, it's not as bad as it looks when I flip between them. But at least it's a bit more structural, but only a bit. So, yep, the journey continues. I hope this helped, and thanks for watching.